Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Sorensen. I'm a senior analyst with Zacks Small Cap Research, and I am thrilled to be joined by the CEO of NurExone, a very exciting company that I cover. And I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Lior, as I like to call him. And there's been some really exciting announcements about the products and the development there. So, Lior, please take it away and just tell us a little bit about NurExone.
Sure. So NurExone is a company startup from Israel, made it all the way to Canada in 2022. And the technology came from two elite universities in Israel, the University of Tel Aviv and the Technion, which is the MIT of Israel. A lot of people know about it. It's mainly on engineering. It's a combination of two professors that wants to find a solution for a regeneration of neurons after spinal cord injury. So think about it. We came from one indication, one product, and now with the perspective of time, we have several product in our portfolio. We have a very strong platform technology. We have product with several indications. The major one, which is called Exopetan. The major one is still, of course, acute spinal cord injury, but we found out that it's also relevant for optic nerve damage, facial nerve, and we can go further on and on. But my board always say, please stay focused, and this is what we do. We stay focused on those very, very interesting indications. With the spinal cord injury, we have also orphan drug designation in Europe and United States. And we will get into the technology, why we are so unique in the exosome field. And this week, I will keep it for your question later. But I think with celebrating now 3.5 years of being publicly traded company, we are working in the highest standards, regulatory wise and also financial wise. And we are getting into the next step soon to, getting out of Canada or getting the company uplisted into the US, getting into the larger market. I think this is also a very interesting point to discuss today.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you led me right where I wanted to go because you have all these indications and you keep, I know because they cover you, you keep getting more and more. And yeah, you have to stay focused. But why is that? What's the science behind exosomes and your process and why it has the potential, it looks like, to be a almost miracle breakthrough to treat all of these conditions?
So let's start with exosomes. Exosomes are tiny vesicles that cells secrete, mainly stem cells secrete, during a very routine physiological process. Okay, this is like a tiny envelope, a letter, okay, a package of Amazon. I always like to call it. The cells sending it from a good and healthy tissue to a damaged tissue. So those exosomes are, I would say, a very guided or clear package with the right address, and they're going to inflammation. They're going to damage tissue. Okay. And when we have that and we mix it together with the knowledge that in acute traumatic injury of the spinal cord or CNS for the central nerve system in general, you have a first step of inflammation. And the second step that you want to deal with is to promote regeneration. So this drug delivery system, I think it's the ultimate drug delivery system, is first of all, reduce inflammation, because this is part of the nature, this is nature beauty of the exosome, to reduce the inflammation by the fact that they are conjugate, they are inside this inflammation, and promote in the second step, the regeneration. So using that, the exosomes with siRNA, this is exactly the synergistic effect that we wanted to see. We want to promote even more the regenerative activity of the exosomes. When we are combining the exosomes and the siRNA that we load inside, we can see synergistic effect. And this synergistic effect, this is where you cross the threshold. If you cross the threshold, you start to see functional recovery.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if you regenerate the neurons if you don't see a function.
Right.
And we see regeneration of neurons and also gain on function, let's say motoric way, and also sensoric, urine bladder activity. And we did it in even two different models. A full transection of the spinal cord, like let's ask the question, if we cut the spinal cord, can we reconnect the nerves? We could achieve it. And then if going into the physiological model, And the effect was even larger. 100% of the rats show improve of motor function.
Yeah, I've seen those studies, and yeah, it's pretty amazing actually what it has been done. So you have the exosomes, and you've explained that. Let's get into specific Norexon, and you've developed the ExoPTEN product. Explain that and what the process is and how that affects potential patients.
So the product is the combination between the exosomes, it's a drug delivery system, and the siRNA. And then in order to get it as you said, product, we had to go into a tech transfer. We had to go from the university out to the industry and ask ourselves how we make this product that we take as a license from the Technion and Tel Aviv University into a product with the freedom to operate. So we ask ourselves, what is the source of the cells? Tick, we have a master cell bank, our property that we can produce tomorrow in a GMP facility with one of the best potent raw material, our cell source. And then we ask ourselves the administration route, intrathecal, intranasal, is it covered? Yes, we have a patent. This patent is granted in the US and we have other territories, Russia, in Japan, and in Israel, and we're writing for other territories. And then we ask ourselves, how we load those exosomes with siRNA. We have our IP on that. And this is a general IP, not necessarily to exoPTEN. It's relevant for other siRNA, even small molecules that can be loaded into the exosomes. And then the third one, other two patents, what we load inside. So also the sequence of the siRNA that we use and the chemical modification is also in a PCT late stage. This makes NurExone not a product. We are using ExoPTEN as a product, a lead product to go into the clinical phase as a pharmaceutical company. But we have a platform because what is unique about NurExone is that we are not modified our cell source and we produce as a first step the exosomes in the naive form. We don't manipulate them. The manipulation of the exosomes is by mixing with the siRNA. And this is the huge advantage compared to Kodiak that failed, that genetically modified the cell source. We are not touching what is good in nature. We try to
You're
improve it,
enhancing it instead of
enhancing
modifying
it.
it.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that is the key here. I want people to pay attention. You said you severed a spinal cord in rats and then regenerated it. That's pretty exciting. But also, just recently, you mentioned the other conditions. You released some good test results, really exciting, actually, regarding glaucoma. Does it affect glaucoma? What are the results you've seen in the initial testing you've done on that?
Sure. So it's actually another test that we have done. We have a first step saying one dose, and now we show a dose-dependent activity of exoPTEN in optic nerve damage. And I want to just make it more clear. Glaucoma is one indication that can be relevant here. Okay.
Yes.
But we have other indications that affect the optic nerve and damage it, like a nion or ion or other indication that actually can damage irreversibly the optic nerve.
Right.
And what we wanted to show, this model is for the glaucoma, similar to the glaucoma, by compressing the optic nerve. But here, if we have a good results, as we see, and we translate it furthermore into tox study, etc., we can have one product for several indications. And we actually need to choose the best one to get it through the FDA regarding the ophthalmology approach.
Right. And that's a great point. And I hope investors understand how unique this is and the opportunity. So what everybody's going to be asking is, what are the next steps? When are human tests going to start on this? The end goal is getting it to patients for their benefit mainly, but also for investors to see the payoff.
Sure. So even before getting to a full clinical study, which we intend to get in by the end of 2026, submitting the IND plus minus, I would say, and I think we will be in a position to use even before. And that will support the IND submission. With our evaluation, we will be able to do it in the even, the middle of 2026, maybe the beginning of the second half. And this is our goal now, to have human data even before the full IND submission. It actually will help us to submit the IND, and then, we will be able to run the official phase 1 to A. clinical trials.
So additionally, you mentioned it briefly. If you want to expand on this, that's great. But that you've been granted the orphan drug designation, and that's a pretty big deal with the FDA.
It is, and it's even big deal in Europe, and we have it also
Right.
because in Europe, not like in the US, you actually can get financial support in late stage in order to bring it to the market. It's huge also to get in the US, don't understand me wrong, because you have actually some kind of market exclusivity by protecting your patent, regardless of others. Second, you can get advice or get benefits from the FDA and support in order to get it through the regulatory pathway. We have good communication with the FDA. I believe that we will be in a position in beginning of 2026 also to have a type C meeting to update the FDA with our process. We are quite advanced with the CMC and the analytic methods in order to supply the spec of our product. The manufacturing look good. We didn't touch it so far in the interview, but we are going to produce the naive exosomes first. Okay, this is our drug substance, and this is the market by itself. I mean, I want to be a pharmaceutical company, but my value proposition here is that I can create a stream of revenue by producing those exosomes for myself, and after that, the extra will go as a B2B business to cosmetic or aesthetic, that I'm just a supplier for those exosomes because it's not manipulated.
Right.
It's a huge demand and also huge change in the US, regulatory wise, in Florida, Utah, and other states that we say, okay, we allow to use cell therapy and its derives if it's not modified and if it's produced in a good manufacturing or a good manufacturing practice for treating patients in pain, dermatology, and orthopedics. And this is a huge market. If we thought that our market for the naive exosomes is the Far East or less advanced countries, now you can get it legally in the US.
That was actually a great lead into my next question because that's a potential revenue source. And that's what the other question that people are going to have is what's the financial position? How's your capital position for the testing to come? And you mentioned you have potential for revenue from a couple of different sources, and that will certainly help out because we're at an inflection point, as you mentioned, that, beginning of 26 is going to be a big point. So how are you guys standing? How much more money do you think you have to raise? How much revenue do you think you might get in the near future? Those kind of things.
We are part of a uplisting into the US market. It will be in the next 4 to 6 months, I believe, already in Q1 26. By that, money will be injected to the company. And even before the market, everybody can see the market. We went up even more than 1.1 because of the pattern in the US. But good for us, it's actually trigger acceleration of warrants. So people are liquidating the money, which is fine. I think it's temporary. I don't want to speak too much about the market itself, but here we are talking about relative large acceleration of warrants, and this will inject more funds to the company. We have already investors that accelerate, and we are still waiting for the deadline here. After sharing with the other investor how much money we could inject to the company, I think you will be able to see that we are in a good position.
Yeah, I agree. I have looked at it. And I do want to mention that I commend Dr. Lior on the expense control. They run a pretty tight ship over there. That's where you can kind of see some of these operations getting kind of loose with the money. That certainly isn't the case.
We are very cautious about the situation. It's not easy. The micro environment is tough, but we know how to execute so far, and we're getting more and more attention. I just came in September from on-site event from the Health Tech Hub, part of ARMI, the American Regenerative Manufacturing Institute. We were part of cohort 8 there, and we start to establish more and more contact in the US, and I think some of that will also bring a potential partnership.
Yeah, that's another potential as well. So there's a lot of potential there, and the company is in good financial shape.
Very important to say that the potential is good, but through the course of the 3.5 years as a public and even before, you can say that we could execute and we will
Yeah.
continue to do so.
That's what I was going to say, that this isn't a fly-by-night, just come lately company. This is one that has history, and you can go back and look at it. And of course, I have that they have shown that they can operate and execute very well and have a good plan in place, which is not always the case.
Your example, we talked about acceleration of warrants exercise. We had two events before, and our history show that the first one was 85% exercise, and the second one 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the statistic will be different here.
Yep, I agree with you. I think we're at an inflection point. That's why I wanted to have you on, because I wanted investors to really get a good look at what your company is doing and have the opportunity to get in kind of before the ramp up, because we're right at that point and it's a very good story. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this and you have questions, contact me, contact NurExone, and we can give you some more details. Read my research out there. You'll find it pretty informative and very positive, because I'm very positive on this company. Is there any last comments you want to make, Lior?
I would say really stay tuned. Read Zacks reports. I think they are very detailed. I think we're giving you a lot of work because we are publishing, I would
Yep.
say, every 2 weeks something. It's our ability to produce first results and also impact. I mean, yesterday we published regarding impact. Dr. Ina Sarel, our CMC quality and regulation head, she's invited to get a speech. Invited, it's nothing paid. It's actually the
Yeah.
opposite. We invited to get a speech in Cambridge, the UK, in precision medicine, specialized in exosomes. When I'm going to conference, we are considered to be the pioneers in the fields, or the good success, good case study, how to do it right, even if we are just in the preclinical stage, because we have a lot of know-how. We can produce a lot of know-how patents, and we think out of the box. Taking a private company that just is part of the tech transfer activity from university to a publicly traded company in Canada, only that raises a lot of questions. But if you ask me the opposite with the last 3 years of the market, if I will be private company, I'm not sure that I will be able to raise more than $18 million.
I agree.
And this is the track record that we are provide. The company till now could raise $18 million. And I think by this acceleration of warrants, we even will cross the 20.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, I would like to say, find out who's contacting them, who's asking for their expertise. And the FDA has seen this as a worthy enterprise to kind of be invested in as well. The authorities in Europe have as well. So I encourage you, like Lior said, thank you for tossing some business my way. Read our research, read my research. I cover them very extensively and I'm unbiased. Obviously would like them to do well, but I tell you what they're doing, and thankfully they provide me a lot of good news to get out there. So thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, if you have any questions, contact me. My information is always on my reports, and I can get in contact with Lior. He's very accessible. So thank you and have a good day.